we built our house, actually we bought the land from a Jello's farm. And it was all cows up through there. And I think John Chekta built about the same time as we did, but they built on their land. But we built the house, and they were doing the cellar, and the cows would be all around. And so we were in there about 1955, 56. We had 3 children, and they loved it up there because it was Bomba's farm, Chekta's farm, Agello's, Bihuniak's. It was all farms. And when we built our house, we put our driveway, we thought was a convenient place. Come to find out, Laura Lane was going to be a town road, and they started with Laura Lane. We says, oh my goodness. But then on the side was Tibbetts Road, and that was all dirt. And the kids used to call it the Gypsy Trail. And they'd all go down there, you know, it was the Wedowitzes and the Chuktas. Those kids had a ball up there on the hill because there weren't that many cars. And they would go down into the woods. And one day my husband and I decided we're going to take a walk down to the woods because they talk about the caves. When we ever saw those caves, we says, oh my God, there must be snakes in there. And they all talked about the caves. But they had a good time up there. And Mr. Wells lived up the road. And he was the chairman of the Republican Town Committee. And they needed another person at the town hall. So he would stop by and say, I got a job for you. And I'd say, you know, Mr. Wills, I don't want to work, so don't give me any job. He'd come by, and finally he says, you know what, you got to take that job. They need that job. I said, all right, I'll take the job. Went down there, not knowing that it was both town clerk and tax collector. Wow, I never saw so much work. It was taxes, it was sewers, it was doing the interest, it was mailing out the bills. It was, you typed the indexes for the recordings. It was fish and game. You just went constantly. And I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. After a couple of months, I got another job, and I told Mr. Pearson, oh my God, he said, I must be an awful boss. What did I do wrong? I thought he was going to burst out crying. I says, all right, Dick, I'll stay. Oh, you will never regret it. Well, I regretted it many a time. So anyway, we kept it up. I mean, half of the time you didn't even get a lunch hour. You'd come in early. It was so much work. And he started the Christmas checks for the servicemen in Seymour, which is very nice. You have to be a resident of Seymour, and you have to be in the service at that time. But the town gives so much, American Legion, donations, and those servicemen are so happy to get $100 at Christmas time.
Now, is that still happening, Esther?
Yes, it was when I left. So I'm hoping it still does because, oh, they are just thrilled. They send the thank you notes. It's so nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and anyway, we kept up, and Dick got sick suddenly. He was in the hospital a week. Lo and behold, he passed away. He was only 66 years old. And we had another girl, and Mary P. Norma hired her. Son of a gun, if she didn't get sick. She was only 62 and she passed away. Well, he says, oh my gosh, what's the matter with this office? But then Norma took over when Dick passed away, and Angela Presti was the first select woman at that time. And Norma said, I will not take the job unless you separate the 2 departments. And they finally separated the town clerk and the tax collector's offices and made a big difference. I mean, you couldn't keep it up like that. It was awful. And you can only hire so many people. So anyway, we worked out great, and Dick saved every bill from the time he started to work. I wish you could have seen that vault when we were in it. It was boxes and boxes, discharges. They weren't filed away. They weren't indexes. Vitals. Oh my God, we made I don't know how many books of vitals. And behind cabinets he had stuffed all receipts. When he passed away, Norma and I were going to clean the vault. There was a window in there. We opened the window, and they got a dumpster. And we threw everything out the window into the dumpster. We We finally got that vault cleaned out. She died in 1994. Shortly after him, she was only 62 years old. I think her mother and father were still living when she passed away. And you know, and it was so funny, she kept saying, my shoulder hurts, my shoulder hurts. She had cancer, didn't know it. Yeah, 62 years old. So there were 3 people in a short time in that office. And so I kept up, and when her time was up, I couldn't make up my mind. Dick said I wouldn't regret it, but I did, and I went and took over. So I was town clerk for about 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when Bob Koskolowski was in office, he started the addition. And that's when we got the addition, because I'll tell you that small town hall, they were, we had like 2-3 people, departments in one office. Downstairs was the police station, then it was the Flaherty room, and I got sore. I was up all night with her, and all of a sudden, about 4 o'clock in the morning, I says, gee, George, I hear a noise out the window. We looked out, it's all cows out there, and a little Angus calf. I says, oh my God, I think it's Chuck's cows. Well, George got up, and he chased the cows up the road toward Behuniak's. Well, I called my brother-in-law, and I says, John, I think your little Angus is up here with all the cows. He came up, he says, well, where are the cows? I says, George chased him up Tomlinson Road. Well, about an hour later, here come all the cows and the little Angus. But Jellos used to milk the cows early in the morning, and my mother used to love to make homemade cheese. She'd get me up early, have the gallons ready. She says, go get me the warm milk. So 6 o'clock in the morning, I used to be over at Jello's farm waiting for him to get through milking the cows. But the cheese was so good. But yeah, it was fun with all the farms up there. It really was.
Well, tell us some more about the town hall, Esther.
Yeah, so anyway, we started with the town hall. There was only about 9,000 when I started there.
Population.
Yeah, and
When was
by
that?
little.
When would that be?
Let's see, that would have been when Dick was in office, so that would have been, I started in April of '65. Dick died in 1977. So I would say 1988 is when they did the addition.
Mm-hmm.
I know they wanted us to do passports. And John O'Toole was in office at that time, and I don't know, for some reason he didn't like our office because he had the man coming down from Stamford. But you had to have the assistant town clerk and the town clerk to learn how to issue the passports. So whenever we found out he was coming down, Irene would take the day off.
I thought that was part of the post office to do passports.
I don't know, but they wanted us to do the
Really?
passports. And he kept coming down. And then John O'Toole was going to resign. So he resigned, and the man came down from Stamford, and he said, now I want to make sure that there are 2 here the next time I come. I says, I don't think so. He says, I want to talk to the first selectman. I says, he resigned. So then he stopped coming down. But, no, that was an awful thing.
Would you tell us about some of the businesses that were on Main Street years ago?
Well, I'll tell you, there was Isaacson's, and they were great. There was Rogel's Department Store.
Mm-hmm.
There was the Seymour Furniture, Eckhart's. I remember Manley's jewelry store. And
A pharmacy. Was there a pharmacy? Foley's.
Foley's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think what else was downtown.
And the bank.
Well, the bank, yeah. Seymour Trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was quite a bank. That's about it.
Could you
there.
buy your groceries in town?
Well, there was the Fulton Market. And that was about it. There weren't that many grocery stores. Well, there was, Claritis's. That was about the only grocery store around.
And where was that? Was that on Main Street?
That was, no, that was on 67.
Okay.
And then gradually they bought all that land and they expanded. Everybody went to the store there. And I'm trying to think what else.
How about professional businesses or doctors, lawyers? Were they in town also?
Let's see. Fred Stanek, I think, bought the house on 67, on Bank Street. And he started, you know, the attorney's office. And who else was there?
Tell us a little bit about some of the stores. You listed them, but tell us what was sort of the personality. What did they sell? What were they known for?
Well, Rogel's was mostly men's clothing. And Isaacson's had clothes for everyone. That was a 2-story building. And they had women's clothes, they had men's clothes. That was a beautiful store. And of course, you know, the furniture store. That was nice just to walk through. And who else? Eckhart's. Well, theirs was the furniture store also. And then they had the little stores. You know, they had a little shoemaker that was there. The theater. The theater is still there. Let's see. The building up on the third floor. What building is that? It's on Main Street.
Is it the Casa Grande building or was it? I know the one you mean. I don't know with the tower.
Yeah.
Is that the Casa Grande building? Casa Grande building.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what did people do for socializing? I mean, were there dances held in town, or what was the big events that happened in town that everyone would turn out for? Probably had parades.
We had the parades, not big parades. There was a little place on Bank Street. It was called the Blue and Gold, and that's where all the kids used to hang out. The high school kids, they'd have a band there, and it was nice. And trying to think what other hall. Well, we had the hall, KFC Hall.
Yeah.
That's where they used to have all the dances. They used to have all the programs there.
I see.
That was a very active hall. But then, you know, the stairs got bad. You have to climb three flights of stairs. But other than that, that hall is still there.
Yes.
And then, of course, we got Job Lot now. And
How about fire departments? Do you remember?
oh, the fire department, yeah, they were in the old Grange building until they built.
Great Hill.
That's the Great Hill hose.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
then what
they
was
used to have all their outings on Chickta's land in the back. I mean, it was great. They would have all their parties, their outings. The kids loved it.
and what about downtown? Was there another fire company?
Well, the
Citizens.
Citizens. But that was the Citizens were there first, and then Great Hill took over. And just about everybody that moved up on the hill would join the firehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Was Town Hall affected at all when the flood came? Or was anything ruined in Town Hall records of any sort?
No,
No.
no, that was just 3rd Street, I guess. Was that? Yeah, that was the name of the street. That was demolished.
Do they play movies at Strand?
They do almost every week. They have movies constantly there. Yeah.
Did you go often?
I don't, not really. I'm not one for the movies anymore.
How about when you were, though,
Oh yeah, we used to go there all the time.
you talked about being at Town Hall when Miss Lepresti was in charge. Tell us about her. She's sort of a legendary figure in town.
Right, our only female select woman.
Yeah, she was in office when Norma took over. Norma Drummer. But other than that, she was a good select woman. She was there when Dick passed away. and she closed the town hall naturally. But as I said, Bob Koskolowski was the one that did an awful lot for the town. Yeah, he always wanted to betterment the town.
Mhm.
He's a police commissioner now,
Mhm.
and he's the one that had the addition. And I'll tell you, once they put that addition on, it was great. And then the senior center used to be on Bank Street in the old center school.
Mhm.
And then when they bought the community center, the senior center went up there. And Lucy had a lot of trips. All the seniors belonged to that senior center.
Mhm. And that's still functioning today? That's still functioning today?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, she has activities. Not trips like she used to.
Mhm.
But she has bocce balls and things like that. They play bingo.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's quite active with whoever comes.
Mhm.
And then they have the recreation. They have the recreation department that does a lot. They have a lot of trips also. Office where it wasn't before. And so it's a lot easier with all the, the fish and game, the dog licenses. You knew from January on what was next. It was fish and game was due, the dog licenses are due, of course recordings every day, loads of recordings. And now you could give the recordings right back to whoever brings them in because you put everything on the computer. So it's a lot easier.
Seems like working in the town clerks or town tax assessors, people would come in and probably tell you their problems as they were.
Oh, you always heard problems.
So tell us about that.
Well,
When would you hear this?
I remember this one particular time. Norm and I were there, and I remember when this fellow remarried. And he came in one day and he said to Norm and me, could you check, is my name on the deed to my house? He says, because I did have the house when I got married. So we went in the vault and we checked it out, and how that happened was the woman he married went and, for some reason, took his name off and put her name and her daughter's name on the deed. He says, she told me I didn't own the house anymore, and we looked it up and we says, no, you don't. Poor man started to cry. We started to cry with him. So, they would do things like that. The minute somebody passed away, they would be in that vault to see whose name was on that deed. Yeah, people are funny.
And how about tax collecting? Would people sort of whine about having to pay their taxes?
Well, that's in the tax office now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was changed after Dick passed away.
But you were there when it was both, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when you were there as a tax collector, did you
Yeah.
hear people?
Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous, really. Between the taxes and the recordings, everything was in that office. And you just stood at that counter and took everything in. Yeah.
Got to know a lot about Seymour and its people just standing there, I'll bet.
The people were nice, though. You got to know just about everybody in Seymour. And that's what was nice. And you'd hear their problems, and you'd stand there and listen to them. And it was good.
You said there was about 9,000 people when you started.
Yeah.
How many were there approximately when you
About
left?
16,000. Yeah. And at that time, Registrar of Voters didn't have an office. We would issue all the voters, and we'd keep the cards. Of course, in the town clerk's office, you have to keep track of every board's minutes. So there for a while, we didn't even have any room anymore. But they did add on in our office, and we were able to keep all the minutes. But you have to file all the minutes in the town clerk's office, and you have to keep them. And you have to stand there when they look at them because they could take the minutes if they wanted. So, it's rough in there. It's a lot of work.
What's the most interesting thing? What stands out in your mind is, wow, this was sort of the most exciting thing that happened when I was working for the town?
I don't know. I found everything very interesting. And, even when I left I just felt bad that everything that was going on in Seymour, I was leaving. But once I left, I got used to it.
And what changes did you see, other than the population change, what else did, if you look back from beginning to end of, your time with the town, what changed a lot?
The recordings, the homes being built, in every section of town, homes were being built. So there was always more people coming into Seymour. And then they had Sheffield School. Lepresti School they closed, and they have Bungay School now. What's nice is, because I know my great-grandchildren go, they have the playground all summer at Bungay School. And I don't know what they charge a year for the summer, but the kids all love it. And it's 8:30 till 2 o'clock. And they have a lot of things for those kids to do. They have a big population of children there too. So that's good. They take them on trips. They go up to Lake Quassapag. They go to Beardsley Park. They go to all places. Very good. That's something nice that they have in Seymour, for the children and for the summer.
Your personal life, Esther? Your children, how many children you have? Are they still in Seymour?
Yes. I had 3 children. They were all active in school. I think every one of them was the president of their class. They all went on to college. Dennis went to Boston College, which he always wanted to go there. Sandra went to, trying to think of that college in Southington. She went there. Janice went to Briarwood. And then they all got jobs. Sandra went to work for pediatricians because she took up medical assistant. And actually, she's still there. She's thinking of retiring in a couple of years. It was a long time there. Janice helped there for a while, but her husband has a factory now in Seymour, Retina Systems, so she works for him a couple of days a week. And Dennis was the building inspector for a while. He's with Seymour. They have the oil company, and that's what he used to do. So he'll be there for a couple of more years, and then I think he'll leave. And they all live in Seymour. They all have children, so I enjoy all of them.
Why did they stay in Seymour?
I don't know. They liked Seymour. Dennis bought a house not too far from me, and my other granddaughter lives down at High Ridge. And yeah, my grandchildren all live in Seymour too. I didn't know him then, but because he was 9 years older, so I didn't know him. I was in high school when he was in the service. But yeah, he was in World War II. He was in New Guinea. In fact, when we went to Washington, D.C., we saw the new monuments they put up for World War II. New Guinea was the first one. And they're beautiful memorials. If you ever get to Washington, D.C., I'll tell you, the memorials are beautiful. He worked in Keyrights, and then he retired and got a heart condition, so he passed away. So I was going to leave, and then when he passed away, I thought, well, I might as well stay in the town clerk's office. What am I going to do home? And so I did until I thought it's time for me to leave. But John O'Toole he was just after me in our office. So between the assessor and me, he said we had to take the tests by the end of the year, and if we didn't pass the tests, he was going to let us go. Well, we never had to take tests for the town clerks because we'd have our conferences, we'd have our schooling. I mean, I had to go to the University of Connecticut so many times, University of Hartford. We were always going to school. Well, when he said we had to take the test, he says, what kind of a test? So when we had one of our conferences, I asked the town, the town clerk, what kind of a test, do I have to take? And she said, well, we'll make one up for you. So they did. And I did pass it, but I didn't tell him. And I kept my certificate in the drawer. And he wanted this. I didn't let her know. She finally, when she found out, she says, when did you take that test? I said, when we had one of our conferences. So I passed it, but the assessor would not take it. He said he went to all the schools, he went to all the classes, and he couldn't see why he had to take the test, but he wanted to get rid of us. So the assessor said, I'll leave. So he left, and I had passed the test. But they were quite surprised because I didn't tell them I was taking the test.
How did the farms really play into the community, other than the farms were there? How did the community make use of them?
Well, they had all the land, and if you wanted to go to any of the farms, you were able to go. They used to take the kids from school.
Delivering milk.
What about milk? Did you go there for your milk, or was it delivered to your home?
Checkers used to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they delivered the milk.
Could you also go to the farm to buy your milk?
Yeah, like I said, my mother used to send me over to Jello's,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to stand there and wait for him to get through milking, and then come home with the fresh milk.
And could you go there like and buy any of buy the produce that they grew there?
Oh yeah,
Like corn.
everybody
and
had
that stuff?
stands.
Stands.
In fact, Bombas still have the
Yes,
stands,
Yes.
but a Jello sold everything. Chuck sold just about everything. They have a little land left with some cows, but that's it.
And how about the First National in Seymour? Was there a meat market, First National?
Oh yeah,
it
there was
called?
Fulton's Market.
Fulton's Market.
Oh yeah, they were great. I hated to see them go up off of 67.
Did you say what year you moved into Seymour?
It was around 1955, 56. Yeah, because my husband built most of the house himself. And his father was a carpenter, so he would come down from Waterbury and help him. And the farms were still there, and the cows used to come all the time. Bombas oxen would come in the backyard. But it was fun to see them.